A reading from the Gospel according to Luke. Then Jesus said to the disciples, "There was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was squandering his property. So he summoned him and said to him, 'What is this I hear about you? Give me an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer.' Then the manager said to himself, 'What will I do, now that my master has taken the position away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg.'" Here ends a reading from God's Word.
I am always honored when former parishioners from previous interims show up. I have a guest here today, but it's also dangerous because I am a Pete and repeat. That's the joy of being an interim, is you just get to repeat your sermons. Last week, that was the 13th time I ever preached that sermon. So, but you're lucky. I don't think you've heard this one. So I need a little disclosure. Yes, I am political. I love politics. I try to be very protective about it. I come from a family tradition. My grandfather, at one point in his life, was the vice president for the separation of church and state. So my grandfather would come and beat me if I had a political poster in my yard or on my car or anything like that. I will tell you to vote. And vote, if you're like me, vote often and early. But today I wanted to do probably my most political sermon of all. So hopefully I won't offend too many people. Well, I never was very athletic. But once in my life, I got a ribbon. Yes, it was a third place ribbon. I was very proud of it. There were 3 of us in my age group at that moment in a Cub Scout event, some kind of Olympics, running, whatever, but I got 3rd place! Woohoo! You know, but it still hurts a little bit, you know? We all like to be on top, right? We want to be first place. I believe some people like to root for this institution that's down in Columbus. You may have never gone there in your life. You have no relatives whatsoever, but you go bonkers for that OSU because, yeah, it's probably one of the best football programs in the nation, and they've been proof of it. I've been given OSU material to wear. I have a brother still living who's bigger, taller, meaner, and uglier. And he would come and get me. But, you know, 3rd place. Sometimes it's good, but I really wonder. So let me give you this image. Do you see something that might not be good about that image? Might make you question? And just as a point of reference, that is at least the newer Georgia state flag in the middle. Thank God we got rid of a certain section of that flag off. Anybody got a? Yeah. Coming in 3rd. Is that what we're really to be about? You know, that's our question that we come to ourselves is this really 3rd in our lives? I read an article this week about this gentleman, and they were asking, well, you know, are you a Christian? And the gentleman said, yes. He says, I am a Anabaptist tradition. And she said, well, what's that? I've never heard of Anabaptists. And he explained what an Anabaptist believed. And she said, oh, you're a Democrat. You know, we sort of have these labels that we can define people more political than we know about their spirituality or where they truly believe to be an Anabaptist. And so, you know, we sometimes give such power to it. You know, you ask any good evangelical about the threat to Christianity, and you're going to get a quick response. Anybody want to take a guess what some of the horrors that are out there that we got to fight? What? Oh, come on. What? What? Oh, the Supreme Court? Well, yeah. They do get that, but, you know, really they get the isms. Secularism, pluralism, liberalism, atheism, socialism, and then the whole Islamic faith. Get all up in arms about that. We got to fight that. Well, let me give you an idea of what I think is really the biggest issue we are facing in this country. And it's a thing called civil religion. Civil religion. So what is that? Some of you are going like, what? Well, civil religion is the mixing of nationalism and the religious faith to the point that they're inseparable. We had a president at one time who probably was the greatest high priest of civil religion. He was so magnificent in using the church to sort of bless everything. Of course, we've had some of the religious leaders have gotten burnt bad about the issue. But there has to be that separation. Christians are too often ignore these questions, or they get mad when people raise them. They blow up the next Bible study by asking the question, should Christians stand for the national anthem or recite the Pledge of Allegiance? You might just start a fight. You know, we get questioned about that. You know, if you really go back, you have to realize where Christianity was found. We were in an occupied country with a foreign government. And so Jesus really wasn't going like, yay, Rome. He was asking that. See, the question we have to ask ourselves is, you know, are we Christian first and then an American? Or are we American and then a Christian? Finding that balance, what's more important? You know, one can hold loyalties to Jesus and the nation, but they are separate loyalties. And one must be united to the other. Otherwise, we reduce God to being our national mascot and claim far more exclusive divine favor than they deserve. My best friend from seminary days married a Thai woman. And we were sitting there, we were talking about it, and I was questioning and learning about her life in Thailand. And she became a Christian when she came here to the States to study. And I said, well, you know, tell me about your family and everything. Well, my mom and dad are secular Buddhist. I went, what? I've never heard of that. Well, they're in the educational system in Thailand. And they have to be a certain kind of person and certain things so that they can move up the ladder in the system. So they don't care about Buddha. They don't care about any of that stuff. It's just they have to do it. So often we won't ever talk about that there are secular Christians. People who are really just Christians by culture. And so we struggle with that issue. You know, Dietrich Bonhoeffer points out very clearly from 1 Peter, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellency of God, who has called you out of darkness into God's marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but now you are the people of God. You have not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as an alien and strangers to abstain from the fleshly lusts which wages war against the soul. Even back in that time, he realized that we as Christians, we're really aliens to what is around us. We really don't belong. We have to separate. A few years ago, religion, civil religion is dangerous. First, it assigns God's favor to a particular nation, political party, or a system, or government. All you got to do is read Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and you're going to figure this out. As he lived during the Nazi Germany. You know, my question is, when did God register for one of the parties? Now, I know for a while it was very popular to take certain 3 letters of one of the parties and refer to it as God's own party. You know, I didn't know that God ever registered. I'm waiting for that to find out. It's a typical partisan blindness to reality. People always want their side to be responsible for everything good and for everything they are responsible for to be good. So they just believe it. Facts be damned. Oh, everything about us is right and perfect. A few years ago, I had the privilege of going to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And they were having this special display called The State of Deception about the power of the Nazi propaganda. In fact, when I just got here to the area, my first interim in the area, this was also at the Maltz Jewish Museum. Very powerful. And I'll never forget going through that. And I mean, there is a lot of horrible pictures in that museum. But I couldn't find the exact picture, but this is the closest I could find that made me almost throw up. The picture that I saw in the art museum was Hitler standing there with all these religious leaders, Protestant and Catholic, just embracing that. That's not what I think we are called as Christians. We have to call when we see injustice and wrong and not embrace, standing apart. See, there's a second reason it's dangerous is that when these 2 loyalties get stirred together, the God that emerges tends to take on the priorities and values of the nation rather than the citizens of the nation taking on the attributes of the Creator. We get things so out of place. When I was in seminary, Glenn Statson, who was one of the professors of ethics, preached a sermon on "Put not your trust in chariots or men" from the Hebrew canon. And he said the statement I will never forget. When the church and politics crawl in bed together, they don't make love. They make the ugliest little bastards you've ever seen. Yeah. The wrongs and hurts that happen when we try to crawl in. Are these the images of Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus holding a gun, teaching a kid how to shoot? You just can look this up. Dolls selling with, it looks like an AK, 40, 15, something, I don't know. Is that what we're supposed to be about? Surely Jesus came from more than self-congratulation society, who forever circled the wagons around their own saving identity and their own self-serving God. We need to be more about that. We have to be more opening and more welcoming. See, the third reason is the actions of the government leaders can too easily be justified as divinely anointed, even if they turn out to be foolish or reckless. Yes, some of our presidents have done great things. Some of our presidents have done horrible things. Our government has done some great things. Our government has done bad things. But when we just blanket it all open, it sets us up. See, it confuses our allegiance. Who do we really owe our allegiance to? What's more important? Now this one, I share, and I'm not sure I completely. This comes from James A. Garfield. Of course, y'all know who he is, and His home wasn't far from here, and he was a very devout disciple of Christ, minister and a lay preacher. The divorce between the church and the state ought to be absolute. It ought to be so absolute that no church property anywhere in any state or any nation should be exempt from equal taxation. For if you exempt the property of any church organization, so that to the extent you impose a tax upon the whole community. There's something to wrestle with, something to think about. See, being civil is really important. I want us to be civil. And this election period is not exactly the easiest way to be civil. You know, we have to learn to show respect and to learn to listen, seek understanding, and share your own views as well. And keeping ahead, just trying to be balanced. I found this cartoon. I thought it was pretty good. There's another political rant posted on Facebook trying to swing a few voters for the election. Nah, I'm just trying to get rid of some of my friends. I don't know about you, but I've lost a few already in this cycle. Just where we can't talk to one another and be civil. There are differences, difficult and challenges times for our local communities, our country, and the world. Divisive and heated rhetoric dominates the public dialogue, and the power of money is shutting out the voice of the average voter. More and more people are withdrawing from the engagement in the political process out of a growing sense of cynicism and mistrust. Are you witnessing that? Experiencing that? Yeah. You know, as a people of faith, we can play a unique role in this election cycle by encouraging civil, respectful, and dialogues that build community and offer a hope-filled vision of a future for all people. Yes, we need to be involved. Yes, we need to vote. But we need to be ways to understand what is more important for us. There isn't anything new since Constantine. We have seen it replayed over and over. It's the age-old story of the faithful being seduced by power. And it's time for us to wake up and take a stand, even if it means standing against the tide. Even if it means losing our seat at the table of power and joining the marginalized. Because that is where we will find Jesus. Seek God